Hello Year 7 and welcome along to our next lesson here in Python programming, and today we are going to look at two elements of programming, that's inputs and selection statements. These are two things that may make up an algorithm, a part of an algorithm, and they're two parts that are really commonly used in Python programming. So as we build up some more complex algorithms, these are some extra building blocks for you to use. Now you might already have a thought on what an input is. We've talked about inputs and outputs before, and we talked about inputs of how you might control a computer using input. Well, in this case, we're looking at inputs into a Python program, so inputs into a program, and we'll dig into what selection statements are as well. So when we build our program, we often want the user to answer a question so that the program can react to their answer. So to do this, we're going to have an input where we're going to ask a question to the user, and then the selection statement is actually used to sort out the result. So depending on what the input is, the selection statement tells the program what to do next. Let's have a little look at an example, shall we? So when we make an input, we need to first of all make a variable. We've looked at variables before. Variables are a way of storing a value in a program. We want to store the value of the input. So we want to store what the user types in for our program. Now, as we've said before, a variable can have any name we like, as long as it's not a reserved word in Python. I've gone for choice here as my example. So choice is the name of my variable. I've got the assignment operator, and then I've got input. Input is a reserved word in Python, which is why it's a different color. If we're using idle, it will be in purple. Now, when we write input, it goes purple. It will actually allow us, inside brackets, inside speech marks, to write a question that will appear on the screen. This is a prompt for the user. So when we run the program, my program would say, "What is your middle name?" And they would then be able to type in an answer that would be stored as choice. That's how we make an input. Pretty simple, one line of code, make a variable, assignment operator, input, and then a prompt inside brackets, inside speech marks. Make sure you close those speech marks. Make sure you close those brackets. Okay, that's your first step, nice and easy. Once we've got that input and we can store their value as a variable, we can now get the program to react to it in different ways. And to do this, we use a selection statement. This is a statement that allows the computer to select the next steps. And this is also commonly known as an if, elif, else statement in Python. We start always with an if check. So the first check is always if. So we've got our input here. This is the one from the previous slide. Choice, assignment operator, input. What is your middle name? Exactly the same. Then I've got my next line. If choice equals equals, and then in speech marks, I've got Brian colon. Now, equals equals is not two assignment operators. Two equals or a pair of equals actually does mean equal. It means is it the same as? Now, there's one thing I'd like to change here. This is a reserved word. I'm pretty sure that it should be a different color in idle, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be orange. So if should go orange, no capital I, all lowercase. If choice is the same as, if it's equal to Brian with the capital B, then we're going to get the computer to print cool name. The colon here means then. So if the choice is the same as Brian, then print cool name. Notice that this line here after the then is indented. That's indented to show that the print belongs to the line above. It belongs to this section of code, and it only happens if this is true, if choice is equal to Brian. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Okay, so this is indented to show that it belongs to the line above. Now, the way to get it indented is either when you press enter after your colon, idle will automatically indent for you, or if it doesn't, you press tab on your keyboard, and tab will indent you the right number of spaces. So that's our first selection statement. We've got our input stored as choice. We then check if choice is equal to Brian, and we can print cool name. Brilliant. But what if we want to check more than one thing? Well, if we want to do that, we've got exactly the same code. Choice, assignment operator, input. what is your middle name? Choice. If choice is equal to Brian, print cool name. But if Brian's not true, it will do a next check, which is an elif. Elif choice equals, which means equals, remember, EV, print cute name. Now, this bit looks the same as the if, doesn't it? Choice equals, then you've got the name that you want to check in speech marks, colon, print cute name. So actually, this bit all works the same. The only difference is this first word here, elif. And elif is just short for else if. Because programmers are lazy, we shorten it down. Instead of writing ELSEIF, elif is just a shorter, more efficient way of doing it. The first check is always if. The second check is elif. In fact, elif could be as many checks as you want, but we're going to just start with one. The first one's if, second one's elif. We've still got that indent. We've still got choice, two equal signs, sorry. We've got the name we want to check in speech marks. We've got the colon for then. We've got the indent, and then we print our response. Okay. So then what we could do is we could have else. And else means everything else. So the computer will check, right, they've written in a name. Is their choice Brian? If it's not, it will check the next one. Is their choice Evie? If it's not, it goes to the else. And else doesn't say else choice equals an option. Else is everything else. So if this isn't true, if Brian isn't true and Evie isn't true, it will print that's an interesting name because it does this instead. Okay, so whatever you write in, the computer is going to give you a response. Either cool name, cute name, or that's an interesting name. Else catches everything. What that's called in programming is there are no arguments. So it doesn't say else check something. It's just everything else. Okay, here's an example then. Here's the code that I've written and that I'd like you to have a go at predicting what you think each line does, and then I'd like you to build it. So stop the video, have a chat about what you think each line does, and then I'd like you to build it, run it, and see if it does what you think it does. Okay, so I'll give you a chance to pause the video now, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so here we go. We've got our first line here, creates an input and saves it as a variable. So we create our input and we save it as choice. If choice equals Brian, check to see if the input is equal to Brian. Is it saying, did they type Brian in? And then we've got print cool name if they did. Then we've got elif choice equals Evie. Print that's a cute name. And it checks to see if the input is Evie. And if it is, it says that's a cute name. Now, the way to check your code works is type in Brian with a capital B. Does it print cool name? If you type in Evie with a capital E, does it print that's a cute name? If you type in anything else, does it do anything? Okay, what could we add in at the end here and make it do something? Well, we could add that else in, couldn't we? We could have else, colon, down a line, indent, print, and have a response for everything else. So, here is what I would like you to do today. I would like you to create a code that asks the user a question and records their answer in a variable. So like this first line here. I'd like you to create a selection statement that checks the value of the variable. So like here, I've got if choice equals Brian, that's checking the input, checking to see the value of that variable choice that I made at the start. Gold is add multiple elifs to your selection statement. So as I said earlier, you can actually have more than one elif. You can have if is always your first one, then you can have elif choice equals one thing, elif choice equals, and you can keep having elif, 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 elif. You can have block after block of elifs, as many as you want, and then the last one is always else. Okay? The challenge is to use or and to check multiple values at the same time. So for example, if I wanted to have if choice equals Brian or equals Sally, how would I do that? You will have to research to do that. It's not quite as straightforward as you might imagine. So our vocab today is input and selection statement. we have got the example here that I've shown you. We also got this example that you might want to look at, because that's got our else on it as well. Okay, best of luck, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do.